Welcome back to The Explainer. Let's jump right into something we all know is absolutely crucial to storytelling, scenography. It's wild when you really think about how a director takes something totally invisible, like say, a character's suffocating grief or a sudden burst of hope, and translates it into a physical reality on stage. I mean, how do you make an audience actually see a feeling? Well, today we are going to break down this magical translation process together.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the language of images, dive into emotion through color and sound, look at sculpting space and light, explore dressing the narrative, and then finally we'll put it all together.
All right, part 1, the language of images, grammar of storytelling. Let's get into it.
Now, we all know the basic definitions of symbols and metaphors, but on stage, they are literally our entire vocabulary for communicating without words. A symbol, like a lone lit lamp cutting through a dark set, isn't just a lighting choice, right? It's hope. And metaphors, they let the story speak entirely in images. Picture a stage floor painted with footprints going in an endless circle. You've instantly physicalized a character trapped in their own confusion. And you did it with absolutely zero dialogue.
And it's fascinating to see how these concepts essentially act as a giant structural framework for production. Imagine a bridge representing visual impact and stage creativity. Well, what keeps that bridge from just collapsing? 3 load-bearing pillars: deeper meaning, emotional connection, and cultural expression. A simple red scarf on a character isn't just wardrobe. It's a structural pillar carrying the heavy weight of unexpressed emotion right directly to the audience's imagination.
Okay, moving on to section 2, emotion through color and sound, sensory triggers. Now, using color to evoke emotion definitely isn't some modern psychological trick. It's actually incredible to look back at the ancient Indian text, the Natya Shastra. They codified these strict symbolic associations between color and human emotion, known as rasas, centuries ago. Notice how Shringara, which represents love or beauty, is explicitly mapped to sky blue. Raudra, or anger, is heavily tethered to red, and Karuna, compassion, is linked to gray. It's this universal sensory palette directors still rely on today to prime our subconscious.
But honestly, the true brilliance of the Natya Shastra framework is that it extends directly to what we hear. The exact same matrix applies to auditory waveforms. Specific musical notes, or swaras, evoke very precise feelings. The S and R notes drive intense energy, bravery, anger. Meanwhile, the G and N notes have this incredible softness to them, almost a melting quality, that triggers compassion and grief. When you pair that visual color with the right auditory waveform, you create this invisible undercurrent that just completely grabs the audience.
Which brings us to section 3, sculpting space and light, manipulating perception.
Let's talk about the dark for a second. Shadows are absolutely not just the absence of light. They are incredibly active storytelling tools. Long, harsh shadows cast across a back wall, they instantly communicate fear, loneliness, internal conflict. They make the space feel genuinely dangerous. But on the flip side, soft, diffused shadows can immediately wrap a scene in the gentle, hazy comfort of nostalgia or memory. As a scenographer, you're quite literally sculpting the emotional temperature of the room.
And this is where physical scale really comes into play. Take a look at the distinct hierarchy of levels in an isometric stage design. A high platform isn't just a neat architectural feature, it inherently symbolizes authority. Putting a character up there gives them unspoken supremacy over anyone below. Conversely, a cluttered, tightly constrained set perfectly visualizes mental overwhelm. Just by arranging space and elevation, you build palpable tension before a single line is spoken.
All right, section 4, dressing the narrative, people telling the story. We really have to look at costumes as wearable narratives, you know? They're driven entirely by style, texture, and layers. Heavy, rich fabrics practically scream royalty, while a simple raw cotton quietly signals humility. And notice the rigid, structured lines on a military-style coat that silently communicates intense, unyielding discipline. What about transformation? A character slowly peeling off a heavy coat, layer by layer across a play, can beautifully symbolize the exhausting shedding of a massive emotional burden.
Alongside the wardrobe, makeup and props directly tie the actor to the show's themes. Makeup is basically a map of human experience. Deep shading projects a heavy burden, while painting half a face completely differently can visually represent a totally fractured identity. And ordinary props? They carry so much thematic weight. A broken mirror isn't just bad luck, it's shattered identity. A shiny luxury watch suddenly appearing on a wrist is this instant symbol of newly acquired and maybe corrupting power.
Okay, let's bring it all home in section 5, putting it all together, practical scene work.
Imagine this prompt. Two kings are signing a peace treaty. One is a massive, dominant emperor, the other is a vulnerable regional ruler. Before we even see the stage, we can map out this contrast. The emperor needs absolute dominance, right? Seated high, draped in authority colors like purple or red, strong backlight. The regional ruler needs vulnerability, lower level, dim lighting, maybe rigidly gripping a sword to show that internal tension. Let's see what happens when we synthesize this.
And there it is. The visual tension in the peace treaty scene is immediate. The emperor's elevated placement and strong backlight cast this massive, looming shadow that literally engulfs the ruler below him. Combine that intense red lighting with those forceful S&R musical notes playing under his dialogue, and you have absolute dominance. The audience feels that power and balance instantly. Honestly, the dialogue at this point is almost just a formality.
Now, let's look at a totally different dynamic, the waiting room. Here, we're contrasting grief, empathy, and hope inside one shared space. Notice the distinct palettes. The old woman in the middle is bathed in gray lighting. Remember the Natya Shastra? That's karuna, compassion, and she's clutching a medical folder like a physical shield. On the right, the mother and child are in a slightly cluttered zone, lit with a warm yellow of hope that slowly fades into the dim light of suspense. Three completely different emotional worlds communicating silently side by side on a single bench.
So this brings us to a really fascinating puzzle. We've talked a lot about human emotions, power, fear, grief, but what about massive, abstract concepts? How do you take an invisible, complex idea, like, say, environmentalism or protesting plastic use, and turn that into a physical, breathing character on stage?
Check out this design of an AI robot built for an environmental protest. It is an absolute masterclass in anthropomorphizing an idea. Notice the brilliant duality. We have these sharp geometric circuits and rigid metallic panels for technology, violently contrasting with smooth, bright green vines and organic woven cottons representing nature. And the prop? An oversized, beautiful, but dead flower encased entirely in clear plastic. It's just a complete, devastating metaphor wrapped up into a single character design.
So, the ultimate takeaway here is that absolutely nothing on a stage is an accident. From the highest platform to a single red scarf, from a loud trumpet blast to the softest shadow on a back wall, it is all deliberate. The scenographer's true task isn't just decorating a room. It's translating the invisible emotions and ideas of a script into a highly physical, deeply visible reality.
It all circles back to this brilliant thought. When we master symbolism and metaphor, we stop simply showing the audience a play, and we start letting them discover the story. And really, that is the transcendent purpose of this art form. You aren't just force-feeding an audience a plot. You're handing them the visual clues to put the emotional puzzle together themselves. It makes the whole experience profoundly personal.
Which leaves us with a final, lingering thought. Whether you're designing a stage, writing a script, or just observing the subtle cues of the world around you, you've got the visual vocabulary now. The tools are right in front of you. So what invisible story will you make visible?